Hello and welcome to another Sprues and Brews video. Today we are looking at the latest supplement for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, Season of War Thondia. So first of all, massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us a copy of the book a little bit early ahead of time to review and share with you guys. This kind of came out of the blue. It was shown off at Adepticon, and it's basically a new kind of source book, campaign book for Age of Sigmar. What I didn't expect was just how much stuff was in this book and how it's going to make some pretty big changes to the game. So if we just flip it over, it's kind of a combination of what we've seen in the kind of Broken Realms books, that kind of narrative advancement with some story in there, and then scenarios that let you play through the events of that narrative. But there's a lot more in here. We get, as we'll see through a bit, we get quite a few bits that are kind of like role-playing game sourcebook kind of material. We get in-universe bestiary entries. We get a full Path to Glory kind of campaign pack in here, which lets you play games within Thondia with new outposts that you can put out, and a full Anvil of Apotheosis system in here as well, which is really, really exciting. We get a mission generator for kind of open play games, and we get a full tournament pack for match play as well, which lets you do a thematic tournament set within Ghur as well. So yeah, some really, really cool stuff. So what we'll do is go in here. Well, I'm going to say we have got a companion piece over on the website where I'm going to go through this in a bit more detail. I'm not going to go too deep into the spoilers of the narrative side, just because I know a lot of people will be excited to read that themselves. So I have put a bit of a spoiler section within the written review if you do want to know what is going on. You can check it out on the website, so spruesandbrews.com. But yeah, so basically this Season of War is a new series that's being released for Age of Sigmar, and this is just the first part, and I assume we will visit different regions of different realms and see the advancing story as it goes on. Really, really nice way of doing it. You know, we don't tend to see much lore advancement within the battle tomes themselves, but these kind of books where you can have a good, you know, half of the book dedicated to lore advancement, that is pretty cool. So the first part kind of gets up to speed on what's happened so far, and we learn about the Realm of Beast itself, Ghur, and in particular Thondia, the region that this book's set in, and where the current kind of like storyline set at the minute as well. So it could be that we spend, you know, a couple of seasons within Ghur, but we move from region to region. I'd quite like us to see a shift to a different realm entirely, but it leaves other areas, you know, left to explore in the future. But yeah, we then get kind of letters from various people within the realm, just talking about stuff that's happening. There's some interesting tidbits in here as well. So the Skaven are talking about how they're capturing bigger, larger, meaner monsters in order to create even more brutal hell pits, abominations. So yeah, I do wonder if some of the little things kind of hinted to in here are maybe a sign of some you know, miniatures that we might see in the future as well. So yeah, but what the bulk of this section is the kind of the new storyline, continuing on from where Dominion kicked off. We see what some of the various factions here have been up to. A lot of this is in relation to the new Incarnates. So when Alarielle cast her spell in the Broken Realms series and essentially caused a giant tidal wave of life to spread out throughout the realms, it had a couple of unintended consequences that maybe she wasn't aware that was going to happen. And one of these was the fact that the realms themselves are alive. So when Alarielle's spell hit them, a massive wave of this life energy, she stirred something within the realms themselves and caused the realm stone to become sentient, intelligent, aggressive beings. And these are the Incarnates. So the first one that we encounter is the Cron Spine Incarnate of Ghur. So this is named after the Cron Spine Mountains, where it's been found, and the book implies that there could be other different incarnates within Ghur, and certainly across all of the realms these things are starting to coalesce. They're not spells, they're not prayers, they are intelligent creatures formed from the stuff of the realms themselves, and they have a power upon citizens of the mortal realms as well. So we learn that humans that are nearby to them start to become more bestial. They grow horns and fur, and maybe echoes of the Beastmen in there, something weird going on. Even the Stormcast Eternals are affected by these creatures, these entities, and the various factions within the story quickly learn that it's maybe a powerful thing to bind to your control. And we'll see from a rules point of view kind of what that means for the game, but certainly from a lore point of view, this opens up the fact that we've got these creatures now spread throughout the realms. They're appearing in different areas, and this is like with the Necroquake. This is something new that the inhabitants of the realms are going to have to deal with. So yeah, pretty cool. Now, what really surprised me and really impressed me as well was that in addition to the kind of like the narrative thrust of this, which again, I'm not going to go too much into spoilers because there's some cool reveals in there that I think are more fun if you find them out yourself. We get this kind of guide to the realms written by a scribe Excelsior of Sigmar. And this is really fun. Basically goes through the various creatures. We've got like hand-drawn pictures by him, his collected notes on what he's found. And this is quite a big section of the book, and it's really quite fun. So I imagine as we go through the other books in this series, we'll gather together like an encyclopedia of the realms. So I just thought this was really fun. It's, entirely from a narrative in-universe point of view, but I thought it was a fun thing for them to do. So yeah, more of this please. It's really, really cool. But I know a lot of people watching this will be more concerned about the rules themselves. And yeah, we do get quite a bit of rules content in here. Not least the addition of Incarnates to Games of Age of Sigmar. So we get the full rules for them, and this is essentially a whole plug-in to the core rules that gives you the how to use Incarnates. I'm fairly certain we're going to see other different types of Incarnates, not just from Ghur, but from other realms as well. And this is something new that you can have as part of your army. So for a start, they kind of take your allied allowance. If you have an Incarnate, you can't take any allies. But if the Incarnate is over your kind of allied points limit, it doesn't matter. So it works in a similar way to Gotrek, where you can just take them. That's your allied allowance, but you can't take any more. The Incarnate of Ghur, the Cron Incarnate, clocks in at 400 points and it's a Behemoth. You can take one of them, and you have to bond them to a hero. It's taken as an enhancement, so I suspect that means you can't take it on a named character, because normally there's a little caveat where, say if a named character can take a spell as an enhancement. There's nothing like that in there, so we'll probably get an FAQ to clarify it, but at the minute I think that you can only take them on non-named heroes as an artifact. So that's pretty fun. The bonded character gets some benefits in that if they're a wizard and they're within Dominion range of it, which we'll come to see in a little bit, they get +1 to cast, dispel and unbind. If that bonded hero dies, bad stuff happens. It will revert into a wild form. And when it's in a wild form, it treats your army as a foe. So you still have full control over it, you can move it, you can run with it, but if it ends its turn within 12 inches of a target, and if it's unbound, that'll be friend or foe, it has to try and charge it. So you've got to be pretty careful if you do. If you place this thing in such a position that if you, for some reason, lose that bonded hero turn 1, you could have the situation where A, it's already within 3 inches of one of your units and thus is stuck in combat with it, or B, even after moving it, you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have to charge your own guys. So unless you've got a pretty resilient hero, you're going to have to be quite careful about where you place this thing. But it is very, very cool. Now, rather than a wounds characteristic, it has levels. Incarnate states it calls. It starts off the game at level 2, and it can go up or down levels depending on things that happen during the game. So the Incarnate of Ghur, if it defeats a monster, it goes up a level. Amazing. It's got a Monstrous Rampage where it can try and devour spells. If it does that, it goes up a level. Amazing. It loses levels when it takes damage, essentially. So over the course of a turn, you'll keep a tally of how many wounds this thing has taken. And then at the end of the battle shock phase, you roll 3d6. If you roll below the number of wounds allocated to it, it goes down a level. If you roll over it, that's fine. And then at the end of the battle shock phase, all those wounds disappear. So basically every turn your opponent's going to have to do, on average, 10 wounds to it in order to knock it down a level. Now again, that does depend on how swingy the dice are as well. You could get really lucky and tank it for a few turns. You could get really unlucky, take a handful of wounds and go down a level. Generally speaking, these are going to be on the table for at least a couple of turns. You without some very specific things happening, you can't really get rid of one in a turn. Any abilities that slay a target drops it a level. So if you had Archeon, for example, and you went at it with the Slayer of Kings and got the result to slay it, that would drop it down to level 1. If you then did enough damage for it to fail its test in the battle shock phase, it would then go down to level 0 and be destroyed. So that's one of the few examples where you could get rid of it in a turn, but most armies aren't going to have ways to do that, so you're going to have to keep that in mind. Equally, it could be that you don't knock it down a level and then it eats a monster and it's back up again. So this is going to be something you have to deal with during the game, and you're going to have to work out, you know, do you allocate some firepower to it to try and wound it and make it fail that roll, or do you just throw things at it and ignore it? Yeah, as we see, there's a few things you could do to maybe tie it up. So yeah, it's pretty good. It starts with 6 attacks on its top profile with Vicious Claws, and it also adds its level to that. So basically, when it's placed on the table, it gets 8 attacks for the top profile, 3 attacks for the bottom profile. It's hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s with the claws, and wounding on 2s with the fangs. Ren 2, Ren 3, damage 2, damage 4. So yeah, quite a powerful combat unit. If you can get it all the way up to level 3, this thing's thrown out an awful lot of attacks on a decent hit and a decent wound. Really, really good. It moves 12, it can fly, it's got a 4+ save. So, you know, it's not guaranteed that you can just throw some chaff at it and get it down some levels. If it loses its bonded hero, it goes into a wild state. And while it's in that wild state, it actually gets +1 to hit, which is crazy good. Obviously, you've got the caveat of that it could go careening into your own guys, but you have full control over moving it. So even if you do lose your hero, you throw it up the other end of the table and have it chomp your opponents. While it's in wild form as well, it can run and charge. So if it is near your troops, just move it and run with it. Get it way away from your guys, and then hopefully it's near enough to charge an enemy unit instead of your own ones. I think it'll take a couple of games for people to get their head round positioning for this thing and making sure that they're not going to kill themselves with it. But yeah, it's certainly very powerful. The most powerful thing with this really though is the Domination Range. So this scales depending on its level and gives you a number of bonuses. The biggest one really is if you issue the Incarnate an all-out attack command, every friendly unit within Domination Range that is within 3 inches of an enemy unit also gets the all-out attack command. That is crazy good. If they've already received a different command that turn, they don't get it. And it isn't a choice. You can't say, okay, that unit, they'll have all that attack, the other one won't. They just get it automatically. So, while that's really, really good, and you can charge in with an entire battle line and get them all +1 to hit, you've got to bear in mind that you might accidentally tag units that you don't want to have that on because you want to put all-out defense on them or something else maybe. So you're going to have to be careful the order you issue your commands just to get advantage of this. But in a fighty army, Daughters of Cain, Cron, Uruks in particular, this thing will be really good as like a, I guess a synapse creature, if we use Tyranid terms, to give everything nearby that's fighting all that attack. Really, really good. In addition to that, everything within Domination Range, friend or foe, can re-roll all run rolls and all charge rolls. Now obviously he's in range of himself, so he's in wild form. He can run and charge, re-roll them both. Amazing. The key bit though is that all units within Domination Range cannot retreat. That includes the Incarnate, that includes all your units, all your opponent's units. If stuff's stuck in combat near it, it is stuck in combat till it dies. That is, again, with certain armies, you can cause a lot of damage with that. And this is potentially how you could deal with this without having to kill it. If you've got a pretty resilient unit, I don't know, something that's got minuses to hit it and quite a few wounds, what you could do is tie it up in combat and it can't retreat from you. So yeah, a way of holding it up. Obviously the danger is it is a massive beat stick and it would do some damage to you, but it is an option if you don't want to kill it to tie it up with some sacrificial stuff just to keep it at bay. Especially if you can maybe position it where if it's in wild form, once it's killed that unit, it's a threat to your opponent's units as well. So there's ways to deal with it, but it's pretty cool. All wizards apart from the one bound to it as well have got -1 to cast a spell and unbind as well. So that's a pretty big one if you're fighting a magic heavy army. Throw one of these things up the table and yeah, they'll struggle. Like I mentioned earlier as well, it's got a unique Monstrous Rampage as well, so it can charge endless spells, and then you do a test, you roll 2d6 and add your level. If you beat the cast value of the spell, you consume the spell and you gain a level. If you don't manage to beat that cast value, you instead lose a level. So it is a bit of a risk, but a calculated one. You know, with the base +2 you've got from being at level 2, you've got a fairly good chance of doing that, but you are in danger of hurting yourself. So yeah, really, really cool. Any army can take it, 400 points, really, really nice. I haven't seen the physical model yet. We do have the new kind of Thondia box on the way with all the scenery and the Incarnate. Unfortunately, didn't arrive in time for this video, but by the time this goes out, hopefully I should have my hands on it and we'll put out another video in the week, kind of doing a bit of a size comparison and seeing, you know, what the model looks like and how it paints up. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with these Incarnates and you know, some other realms and what abilities they have. That'll be quite a big part of list building. Obviously you can only take one of them and it has to be bounded to a character, so yeah, interesting to see where we go from there. We also get some updated realm rules as well, so this is a bit of a throwback to the old realm rules that we used to get in Age of Sigmar. We've got some similar stuff in here as well. So Monstrous Denizens, if you're playing a game in Thondia, you can roll off and one person will put a monster in the centre of the table, and basically that monster is randomly controlled by one of the players before you do the priority roll. So in addition to priority jumping back and forth, control of this monster can go back and forth as well. So that's quite fun. Maybe not one for, you know, super serious tournaments, but for friendly, casual narrative games, that's definitely fun. And yes, you can use an Incarnate there if you want to as well. So again, that's a nice thematic thing where if you're having a battle and there's a wild Incarnate just going crazy in the middle of the board. So that's pretty fun. We also get an updated mysterious terrain chart as well. That allows you to give your battlefield a bit of a Thondian vibe. Again, that'll work quite well with the new Thondia box as well. And again, like I say, in the week, hopefully we'll have a video up looking at some of those new scenery pieces as well, because I think they're fairly chunky. I think people will be quite surprised at how big they are. So yeah, looking forward to seeing them. Now the rest of the book is dedicated to the 3 ways of playing, and we've actually got content suited for every type of player. So for open play, we actually get a new battle plan generator. So a bit like the open war one in the core rulebook, this is a Thondian themed one, and it works pretty much the same way. You'll have a random map, you'll have a random victory condition, you will have a twist and a ruse, and then some of the missions you'll have an arcane prize that you're trying to take control of as well. So nice quick way of generating up some missions for fun, quick pick-up games. So the thing I was most excited about for this book though was the new Path to Glory battle pack. So we're big fans of Crusade and Path to Glory on the channel. We pretty much played through all of the Path to Glory content within the core book within a couple of weeks of Dominion coming out, and we've been hungry for some more Path to Glory content. And the good news is you get a load of stuff in this book, so if you like Path to Glory, I'd say this is a must buy really. So one of the things it introduces is something that we saw alluded to in the core rulebook, and that is establishing outposts. So basically if you win a game in Thondia, you can choose to build an outpost there, and you can have a number of outposts tied to the size of your stronghold. So the bigger the stronghold you have, the more outposts you have. So obviously as more of these books come out and we have different areas to explore, there's going to be an element of managing what outposts you've got, which ones you want to switch out from maybe other ones. That'll be quite a fun thing to do. Having an outpost gives you a number of different benefits that we'll see in a little bit, but it includes being able to capture some of the alpha predators that live in Thondia, getting some unique upgrades for your units that are Thondian based, and also being able to send your troops out on scouting expeditions, seeing if they can find any riches out in the wilderness, but obviously there's a chance that something bad happens to them as well, so we'll see all that in a little bit, but it's really, really fun. We also get 6 new battle plans as well, again just boosting up the number of different Path to Glory battle plans we've got available, because like I said, there's only 6 in the core book, so this already doubles the Path to Glory missions you can go on. Now hopefully these books come out at a fairly decent rate that we can start building up a nice library of missions. We also get some unique Thondian quests. One of them allows you to add an Incarnate to your roster. A pretty tough one. It involves heroes slaying heroes, but over the course of a series of missions on this campaign, you will eventually unlock an Incarnate of your own and can add it to your order of battle. So that's a pretty fun way of adding the new Incarnate. The other one is the Hero Quest. And this uses the new Anvil of Apotheosis that we'll look in a little bit, and essentially allows you to go on a quest. And it's going to be quite a long quest because you're accruing points in order to get destiny to spend on a hero. So the first thing you do is choose kind of how much you want to spend on it, between 10 and 40 destiny points. And as we see, the more destiny points you spend, the more powerful kind of character you can get. And then you'll go on your quest. Every game you'll slowly kind of accrue the numbers that you need to meet that, and then once you've got to that number, you can then go to the Anvil of Apotheosis and forge a new hero. So really, really cool. We'll look at the Anvil of Apotheosis in a bit, but this is such a cool mission. We're thinking of house ruling that each player will start with a Anvil of Apotheosis hero, and then obviously you could go on the quest to add a new one. It lets you use something fun and unique and bespoke rather than using a named character, especially in Path to Glory, where it's all about levelling up these characters and kind of exploring the narrative side. So I think that's really fun. If you've got an outpost as well, you can take some Thondian veteran abilities when you level up. So again, nothing too over the top here, but they're all Thondian themed. So doing extra damage to monsters, for example, or having the strike first effect when they fight. All these are kind of one use only, so there's nothing too over the top. Just adds a little bit of flavour to represent the fact that your warriors have been training in Thondia. Another cool thing that we've got is if you've got an outpost, if you add a monster to your order of battle, there's a chance that it's an alpha monster, a prime monster, that you've actually captured within Thondia and used in your army. And basically the way that works is you roll a dice when you add a new monster to your army, and on a 5+, it's a prime monster. And then you get to pick one of these abilities that gives it, again, nothing too over the top, but a little something that makes it unique. So for example, it could have a terrifying roar that drops bravery from nearby units, or it's got a crushing bulk where it can kind of ram its way out of combat and trample people underfoot. So yeah, really fun stuff that adds a bit of flavour to your monsters that you add, especially if you're kind of leaning into the narrative and, you know, you've added a cool monster because you found it within Thondia and you convert it up. And I think that's really what Path to Glory is about, kind of leaning into the narrative side and kind of showing that in the army that you're creating. And then, like we've seen with the battle tomes, we also get 6 unique Thondian territories for if you have the 60+ section of the exploration chart. And again, these are, you know, similar kind of stuff that we've seen in the past, but with a Thondian flavour. So really nice way of expanding the different territories that you've got available. One of the coolest bits in here, though, are the scouting expeditions. Now, this very much reminds me of stuff from Necromunda and Mordheim, where post-battle you could send some guys out to go and explore and investigate and find some cool stuff. There's consequences. You know, you might send your guys off and they get attacked by a Maw Crusher and end up losing some models. But equally, they might go away and find an artifact or get some glory and renown. So it's a bit of a gamble, but if you've got an outpost, you can send your guys out. And again, I assume that as we go through this series, we'll be able to place outposts in different locations, and it'll be a case of looking where's worth scouting and getting something that might help you on your path to glory. So yeah, really like that. It's really, really fun. So then, like I say, we get 6 battle plans, brand new ones, again with a Thondian kind of vibe. Really enjoyed the battle plans in the core book because there was a bit of a narrative twist to them, and the same is here. Obviously it's in the wilds of Thondia though, so it's a bit more savage maybe than the games that you've had in the past. The biggest thing that they've added to narrative play in this book though is the Anvil of Apotheosis. We touched on it briefly earlier, and as part of a quest within Path to Glory you can forge a character. Equally, you can just make one off the bat. So you can pick a champion level character or a conqueror level character. They're 20 or 40 points respectively, and that gives you the currency to create your own character. And this is like the best version of Anvil of Apotheosis I've seen. It's taken all the cool stuff that's been in White Dwarf, in past general handbooks, and there's so much cool stuff you can do in here. So first of all, you pick your ancestry of your character that you want to build, and I think there's about 26 different options. So you've got elves, you've got Dwarven for, you know, fairly normal stuff, but you've also got dragon ogres, Borgors, demons, skinks, vampires, Skaven. Every single race is reflected here. So no matter what faction you play, you'll be able to make a unique character to them, convert up a model and do something cool with them. Now you see each of them has got a cost associated with it. That's your destiny point cost, and that is what you spend these points here on. So if you've got a champion, you've only got 20 points, so you could have a Borgor, but it's 8 of your 20 points, so you're not going to have as many other options. And equally, if you've got a conqueror, that's your more powerful character, so approximately 400 points is what he's worth. You'll be able to spend some more points. So you pick kind of what race they are, you then pick what weapons they've got, and there's all sorts of weapon options here. You can give them range weapons, melee weapons, shields, whatever you like. Again, there's a cost associated with them as well, so you're going to have to be careful and not spending too much on them in some places. You then pick an archetype for your hero. So basically, is it a fighter, is it a priest, is it a mage? That will give you different benefits depending on what you've done as well. And there will be some restrictions onto who can take what as well to balance it. They get some unique spells and some unique prayers that are again themed to Thondia, because that's where, you know, the storyline is currently taking on. So then you can pick either a animal companion, so I don't know, a flesh hound or something maybe, or an ether wing that's, you know, battling with them, or even a mount. And again, there's lots of options here. Rather than giving us a profile for a dragon or a profile for a griffin, it uses some fairly generic things like minor beast, mounted beast, gargantuan beast, and then you can spend additional destiny points to add some unique flavour to it. So can it fly? Is it particularly good at doing stomp attacks? That kind of stuff. It gives you a lot of freedom to represent the character that you've got in your head however you want to do it. So once you've built that, the final part is adding some kind of special rules and stat improves. So with your remaining points you can just up the stats if you want to, you can give it some special abilities, some special rules, and that really adds to the flavour of the character. So once you've done all that, you will then have your own bespoke hero that you can you know, have whatever you want to do with. So for example, you could have a Lumineth priest on a dragon if you want, that heals every wound that it takes. Something really cool like that. Equally, you could just make something like a little champion level character that's slightly different than the standard one in the book, but again it has this own flavour that you've built yourself. I think in Path to Glory this is really going to come into its own, especially with the quest to create your own heroes. I'm really excited to do this and build up some kind of converted characters. I think it's going to be really, really fun. Now, obviously that's fully legal in Path to Glory games. You do get options for using in match play games. There is a bit of a converter here to turn it into points. Essentially you time the destiny by 10. Now obviously with this being a bit pick and choose, there's probably some powerful combinations here that might be a little bit too over the top for tournaments. However, I'm pretty sure that some tournaments, Warhammer World I'm sure will do some kind of event where you can take an Anvil of Apotheosis hero, and everybody else is doing it, so that adds some like internal balance. So I'm excited to see what they do with this. We went to a Crusade event at Warhammer World, which was really fun. I'd like to see something for Path to Glory and have this built into it. So I don't know, you can't take a named hero, you instead build your own one, and then they get they level up over the course of the weekend, something like that. But yeah, really, really fun, really impressed with this, and I can't wait to see it in action. But that's not all the narrative play content we get in this book, because you actually get a battle pack similar to the way that the Broken Realms worked, allowing you to play through the events of the storyline. So really, really fun. Again, another 6 missions. You've got kind of like historical armies, but you can take your own if you want to. So again, if you've played any of the Broken Realms ones, it's very, very similar. You get some War Scroll battalions for those kind of like named forces within the story. And then again, you kind of go through the missions, and then depending on who wins or loses, there's different things that will impact the next game in the chain. So really fun way. I think what we might try and do is play through these kind of as the storyline goes along and see kind of how things unfold over the course of the event. So really, really impressed with that. Great bit of fun. Looking forward to playing it. So the final part of the book is the match play section. And again, this surprised me in that it's a full kind of like pre-built tournament pack for playing more of a narrative campaign in a match play lens. So designed for any number of players. Obviously you need at least 2, but if you've got a gaming group or you want to run a weekend tournament, this is really cool in that you've got 5 unique bespoke missions and a battle pack set within Thondia with its own quirks and fun stuff. So yeah, really, really cool. It's got some unique core battalions, including a 1-drop with a Incarnate in it, which is crazy cool. Obviously bear in mind this is tied specifically to this battle pack, so you're not going to be able to use these in, you know, other tournament games unless it's specifically this tournament. So don't stress about that. Now it could be that in future General's Handbooks we see something like this added, maybe, who knows, but at the minute all this stuff is bound directly to this pack. You've got some unique grand strategies and some battle tactics again, all leaning into the Thondian vibe. So yeah, I really like this. You also get a full scoring sheet as well that you can print out and give to the players and record the events of the weekend. So for somebody who's maybe trying their first tournament, this is really cool because it's pretty much a pre-built tournament with unique missions, with kind of all the stuff that we've just seen that's kind of bound to this. Really, really fun, and I'm hoping that we get a lot more of this in the future. So yeah, that was a quick look at Season of War Thondia. I was really impressed with this book and I'm excited to see what they do with this series. I think there's a lot of fun stuff they can do here, and especially if they come out at a fair rate, then yeah, it'll be good to breathe some life into the game. I kind of wish this had come out a little bit sooner. I believe it was meant to be released in February, but I think obviously with the various global issues we've got going on at the minute, has delayed that a little bit, I think. Thankfully it's not too late, and it's only released in a couple of months after that intended release. That probably means that the next one's not coming too soon though. But even if we got 1 or 2 of these a year, that'd be a really, really fun way of mixing up your games. Like I say, we're also going to have a video on the new Thondian box as well, which is basically a battlefield in a box with an Incarnate in it. As soon as I've got the box, I'll do the unboxing. We'll paint up the models and do a bit of a size comparison and see what that is. So stay tuned to YouTube for that. We'll have it on the website as well. If you've enjoyed this, why not give us a follow? We do loads of unboxing videos and battle reports and all kinds of fun stuff like that. And yeah, today we've also got the new Tyrannid Codex review and the Parasite of Mortrek unboxing up as well. So if you are interested in the 40k side of things, make sure to check out that too. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.